welcome to the People's Choice Award podcast, brought to you in partnership with Tier 1 People and Fintech Australia. The Finnies, Australia's largest and most prestigious fintech awards, are fast approaching, and we want you to be part of it. Sponsored by the Victorian Government and major partners Vocus and SwiftX, the Finnies are a chance to celebrate the amazing people, incredible innovations, and remarkable resilience that the fintech industry is known for and built upon. Fintech Organisation of the Year Award is sponsored by Vocus. Thank you, Vocus, for your support in making the Finnies a reality. We look forward to seeing everyone on the 9th of June in Melbourne, and don't forget to make your vote in the People's Choice Awards. I'm joined by Dom Pym, and he's co-founder of Up, and they're finalists for Fintech Organisation of the Year. Dom, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here in your hotel room.
Yes, it's amazing, eh? We're here in person, right?
It's extraordinary.
Melbourne, we got a view of the Rod Laver Arena. Feels like we're the podcast is now pimping it to extreme levels.
It's amazing. Meeting people face to face is so strange.
Yeah. We're here at Intersect. I mean, the energy's just... It's so insane, right?
So many people. I was surprised when I walked in. I thought I'm going to be one of the few people sort of wandering through the foyer looking for the directions or whatever, and there were just hundreds of people. It's extraordinary. The energy, the vibe, the passion. It's overwhelming. It's exciting.
It is. It absolutely is. It is. Well, it's great to have you here. For any of our listeners that don't know Up, do you want to tell them a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, sure, of course. I'm Dom. I'm sort of, I guess, a serial entrepreneur, sort of a fintech guy, but previously a background in software development. That's sort of where I come in. And Up it was really the first of the next generation digital banks to launch in Australia. So we actually went live back in 2017 and became the first bank to be hosted, retail bank to be hosted with Google globally, and the first retail cloud-hosted bank in Australia. So we didn't launch publicly until 2018, and because we spent about a year working with the regulators and sort of ticking all the boxes. Up is actually a partnership between my company Ferocia and Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, and they're the fifth largest retail bank in Australia. So Up itself has seen an enormous amount of success, has grown rapidly since we launched in 2018. We're sort of 2.5 years in. And we've got about nearly 400,000 customers, and we've done 25 billion in transactions. So it's out of control.
Wow. Yeah. So I've been kind of with you guys from the early days, one of the beta customers. It's fantastic to see the journey that you've been on. When you kind of look back at it now, and you look back at those early days, it seems like this has been to where you are now, almost like a decade-long play. I know that we talk about the kind of overnight successes. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit more about the origins of Up and how it came about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a decade-long play. We're just coming up to 10 years. Myself and my business partner Tomo. Tomo was an AFL footy coach. I see us as sort of the dynamic duo, the yin and the yang.
So how on earth does an AFL footy coach get to be co-founder of one of the most innovative digital banks in the world?
It's a pretty extraordinary journey, right? So when we first met, Tomo had just wrapped up his footy career, and I had just moved back from overseas. And with my technology background experience and his sort of culture and strategy and team building experience, to me, it is the yin and the yang. Having a partnership like that, the foundations, your founder partnership is so important to the foundations of not only who you are, but what you become. And so for us, it was like, can we build the best technology team in Australia? That was our sort of goal. It wasn't to, do banking or any particular industry segment or even fintech. It was just like, can we build software and build the best technology team, preferably in the world, but at least in Australia, was sort of our goal and our idea. But starting from two people 10 years ago, and probably even more than 10 years ago now, to meeting with Bendigo Bank. We met with Bendigo Bank initially to raise some capital. We were looking to raise some capital for our new company, and we're sort of just two guys, with a maybe a hodgepodge sort of team of maybe people that might join us, sitting around Tomo's kitchen table and saying, well, how do we build this extraordinary team? Who do we know? Who have we worked with before? What are the opportunities in market? That sort of stuff. And so we're chatting with Bendigo, and they said to us, oh, look, we've just gone out. The short version is that they've just gone out to tender for a new mobile internet banking platform. Is that something we'd be interested in pitching for? And so, of course, we said yes. And, the short version is that we quickly grabbed some of our mates that we worked with in the technology sector, software developers, engineers, product people, and some of them had worked in our prior companies, and some of them we sort of, worked with around the traps. And we got together a team to build a proof of concept, and we won the tender. And 10 years later, we're still building Bendigo's mobile internet digital banking platform. And so that relationship is really strong. We've actually got a panel here at Intersect. We're going to be with Marnie, who's the managing director, and myself and others talking about exactly how that all came about, right?
But, well, somebody that you're up against in the finals, TikTok Home Loans, will be
TikTok's will be there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
So I think, they have a very strong relationship with Bendigo as well. But, that relationship has lasted for nearly a decade. And we've just recently signed a new long-term contract. Yeah. So we intend to continue that journey. But about sort of 6 years into that journey, Bendigo introduced us to another bank and said, there's an opportunity for you to commercialise some of this technology we've developed, for this other bank. And then we also started working with some of the big four banks, the sort of two of the four pillar banks here in Australia. And the idea was to build a digital bank. And we worked for about 4 years on building a digital bank with two of the big four, and it went nowhere. Spent a lot of money, lots of trips to Hong Kong and Singapore and Silicon Valley and all that sort of stuff, but it didn't really go anywhere. Never got launched to customers. And then we did another one in Australia. And by that time, we were pretty frustrated. And our team had grown to maybe 15, 20 people. And by then we were pretty certain we were on the path to having the best technology team in the country. Really, really top-notch, really high-quality people. And, with your background and experience. And we got pretty frustrated and said, well, what if we built our own digital bank, and we could be the first of the next-gen digital banks to launch in Australia. And the regulations hadn't changed yet, so there wasn't an opportunity to get a banking license, really. It was, if you got 200 million spare in your wallet, and there hadn't been a banking license for something like 28 years before that issued to an Australian company. So for us, it was like, what does the path look like ahead? And we went to Bendigo and pitched them on this crazy idea. I still have the original pitch deck. It's amazing. Wow. I've got a picture of a Tesla in it. So it's like the Tesla of banking, all this sort of stuff.
And, not the Uber of banking.
No. You've got to go for Mars. You've got to have that sort of big, hairy, audacious goal. And I remember pitching it to Marnie and at the time Mike Hurst. And to their credit, Bendigo said, you know what, we've been working together for whatever it was, 6 or 7 years, and we trust that you guys will be able to have a really good crack at this. And so Up was sort of born. Originally, it was called something else. We were called Alt in the early days. But, during that first year, when we engaged with the regulators, when we worked with Bendigo, when we worked out how we're going to fund this thing, how we're going to get customers, what are the products we're going to launch? We launched a public roadmap, all that sort of stuff. A lot of the questions then was like, how do we get started? And a year after we sort of had those discussions, we launched. And the launch was something to remember.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, I remember it well.
It was a big launch. But here we are now, 2.5 years later, about 400,000 customers. We've got, I don't know.
Sorry, how many customers?
About 400,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, it's actually, I think next week, I came to visit the Ferocia offices, and you were just about to crack 100,000 customers, right? Was it 99,000 on the clock?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And the growth is important, but I think the impetus for the growth and the results of the growth even more so. So we get a lot of people now saying, I've switched my bank, or I've moved my salary over, or, they're using Up. Like our active customers are using Up more than once a day, right? And that's just for purchases. Like if you want to measure all the other types of transactions, it's even more than that. Yeah. So there's some of the most highly engaged customers for a bank anywhere in the world. And we've been looking at other digital banks around the world, and rather than modelling ourselves on them, we're thinking about, well, how can we do it differently? Yeah. How can we do something unique in Australia? And we were chatting earlier about sort of the 2Up launch, which is in the last couple of days. 2Up for us was like, how do you reinvent joint accounts, not how do you just build another joint account.
Yeah.
Like, it's not for couples and married people, it's for anyone.
Yeah.
Anybody, a lot of people have life partners or, live together, or they have kids or a business partner, whatever it is. Our idea was that how can we build something for the other 90% of people that wouldn't even normally look for it?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in any of the other digital banks around the world. So you can't look overseas for that inspiration. You've got to, create the spark here locally and think, right, how do we disrupt? How do we do something different? And we're competing against the massive incumbent, big banks that are hugely profitable, and their technology is amazing. Like, you look at the big four banks, ING, Macquarie. So take those six, for example, and Bendigo, of course, we build that, right? So take those, say those seven, and compare their apps and their internet banking and everything globally. That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's right up there with the best of the best. So for us to do something in Australia that is going to make an impact and is going to be able to grow and be sustainable and be viable and have a community, sort of impact as well, not just for us. You have to do something different, and you can't just sort of build a better mousetrap. You've got to actually say, well, do we need a mousetrap? What is it that we need? What is it people looking for? And how do we sort of innovate and create something entirely different? Yeah.
So if we go back 3 years to kind of just as Up launched, there was a lot of sizzle around neobanks. We had, some of them, unfortunately, no longer with us, went down the path of license. And I remember you vocally came out and said, hey, we didn't go that path because we wanted to be first. Yeah. And we feel that by partnering with a bank, we can do that. Do you want to kind of tell the listeners a bit about just the structure of Up? Because last time we spoke, you were something ridiculous, like 45 people. It's just, how can you build a bank with 45 people?
Yeah.
So how many people are with Up now?
So we would have now around 64, 65 people. We've got one new one starting.
One of the world's most in fact, in my opinion, it is the world's most cutting edge bank, right? It's like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, what you guys do is just, from everything from the branding, the look, the feel, the approach to product. Yeah. It's just insane, right? I remember when you launched, and I was at the launch party, and I think it's still there on the blog. If people want to go and check it out, the Tier 1 People blog. But I refer to Dom as the Steve Jobs of Australian banking. And it's awesome to sit here and see how that's evolved.
Yeah.
I remember you did the test with Anson where Siri, and he deposited $50.
That's it.
For Siri. And it went up on the screen, and I remember I was just blown away. So it's just amazing to kind of watch this journey that you're on, Dom. But what's it been like for you when you sit back and look and go, wow?
Yeah, so probably two things there. One is the partnership with the structure and the relationship with Bendigo, and the second is the sort of innovation and product, right? So on the Bendigo one, so at the moment we're pretty public about how we set it up. It's actually a more popular model overseas, where you have a licensed bank and then you have a technology company or a fintech that partner together. In Australia, the way we operate it, within the legislation and regulations and all the rest of it, is that we have sort of an unincorporated joint venture, and Bendigo focus on, what they're really good at, which is as a licensed bank, sort of issuing the product, providing the balance sheet, and they run, a core banking system. What we focus on is the product innovation, the customer engagement, technology, partnerships, all that sort of stuff, the stuff that we're good at, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very complementary. And, when you look at, say, Bank Simple, sort of considered the first digital bank in the world, or one of, when you look at lots of other, say, Square in the US, you look at those companies and you think, well, how are they set up? And oftentimes they are literally a technology company partnered with a bank. So, for Bank Simple, when they launched, they had Bancorp, and then they moved to BBVA. Very sadly, they've shut down now. But when you look at, say, Square or other businesses like Stripe and so on, there's often cases a bank in the background. So in Square's case, it's Chase. In Australia, that's highly uncommon. So we're going to see the Afterpay Westpac relationship evolve. We're going to see Doe and Ridge and Australia Bank. But, really, Ferocia and Bendigo were the first of that kind of relationship. And as the first mover, I think it served us really well, not only to be the first mover, but also the trust in that relationship has put us in good stead. The low cost of capital, the fact that Bendigo provide all the services that you need in order to run a bank. The nature of sort of the segregation of duties, who does what, the opportunities for the future. Like, we can launch new products really quickly. I'll give you an example. Bendigo and TikTok, who will talk, they'll be on stage and we'll talk a bit with them later on. They've built, an amazing business. And Up is in an envious position of being able to leverage that capability. I'm not just talking about the technology. I'm talking about the sort of the corporate sort of personality that has developed. Bendigo have been supporting, fintechs and technology software companies and sort of innovation for a very long time. They introduced the debit card to Australia, in the 80s. They launched so many amazing things throughout the last, sort of decades.
Yeah.
And so they're a really good supportive partner, and it enables us to innovate really quickly. So that's sort of on the Bendigo piece and how it's structured. It's likely to change over time because we agreed with Bendigo when we set it up that we would set it up as this sort of partnership model to see whether this would work. Now, it might be hard to believe now, but, there was a lot of cynicism. The regulation was changing in the market. There's the big incumbents, all that sort of stuff. Nobody knew for sure, other than me, right? And Tomo, nobody knew for sure that this would work. And so when we set up the structures and worked with the regulators and all that stuff in the beginning, it was like, what chances does it have of working and what possibility is there of success? Now, sort of 3 or 4 years in, we're saying, okay, we've been in market for 2.5 years. We've been growing extraordinarily. We're really the market leader. We're bigger than everyone else combined, or probably twice as big as everyone else combined, maybe even more. And so the question now is, how do we scale that and how do we grow? And so you will probably see, or you definitely see, but I'm just being a little bit coy, you'll probably see some changes announced over the coming, this year, over the coming sort of 6 months or whatever, in terms of how Up is structured so that we can continue to grow and scale and be successful and be here in decades.
Yeah.
So that's on the partnership relationship side. And then on the product side, the exciting thing for us, and you mentioned Anson earlier, but Anson was literally our first employee when we set the company up, and there were 2 others. There was Langers and Ev, and they're all still with us. Those three people. And Anson, I call him our chief imaginer. He calls himself the head of product. Like he's a bit more conservative. I call him the chief imaginer because it's his job to imagine. We pay him to think. Yeah. And all he does is, and I say all he does, like it's extraordinary what he does. But what he does is think about the future. He lives in the future and then sort of comes back to us mere mortals and says, this is what it should look like. This is what it could look like, builds proof of concepts, does all sorts of awesome stuff, and then gives us the opportunity to innovate and really deliver something that no one else has been able to do. So I think that that job is a very important job when you're starting a new business like this. So we're now, as I said, sort of 65-ish people. Yeah. We probably will scale, slower than what you've seen with other digital banks around the world. So, they very quickly get to 200 or 300 people, and the next thing you know, there are 1,000 people. Yeah. That's not our game. Our game is to stay lean, mean, small, fighting machine. We're going up against the big guys. We've got new competitors in Revolut. We've got new competitors in Afterpay. Our view is that if we can stay lean, we can keep costs low. We can, sort of fund the business sufficiently so that we can grow and scale. If we keep innovating, that's the magic piece. So where the real sort of, let's say, battle for success is happening, not just in neobanking, but also in fintech, has been in the engaged customer. Is the customer using you every day? Do they love your brand? Do they love you? Do they have a good experience? Do they recommend you? That sort of stuff. And banks traditionally, even though they might have talked about that stuff, they haven't really been focused on it or, let's say, very good at it. And so for us, we look at global comparisons to see, okay, how do we compare against not just neobanks, but fintechs, the best fintechs in the world. If we look at Afterpay or we look at Square or we look at Stripe or we look at Affirm or we look at all these amazing sort of companies that you hear about, TransferWise, these amazing companies that you hear about around the world, we benchmark against them. We don't benchmark against the sort of, the neobanks that are just sort of starting out. And so we look at, okay, well, what are their levels of engagement and what are ours? And in nearly all cases, whether it be engagement, purchases, deposits, salaried customers, transactions, pretty much any measure you like, we are absolutely killing it on a global scale. Now, that's important because for us, it's a multi-decade strategy. So it's not about launching a new product. I'll give you an example, with the 2Up, the multiplayer banking that we just launched 2 days ago. Within 24 hours, we'd added thousands of customers just from that one sort of feature launch, if you like, that one product. And we increased our daily signups in the last 24 hours. We doubled them. Right. Wow. So that's no marketing spend. That's not an increased CAC. We haven't even told anyone that we've launched it. We literally just released a software product into the App Store and to Google Play. And then we started doing a few tweets and a bit of Instagram and that sort of stuff. We've not promoted it. We've not advertised it. We've not done anything. And we've doubled our daily signups over the last 2 days. Yeah. Now, it's actually still increasing as we speak. I went to bed last night and I woke up in the morning and there are 1,000 new 2Ups. Now that's 2,000 upsiders that have set up a joint account just overnight,
Wow.
while I'm sleeping. So in that regard, having this engaged customer and having customers that are using you every day, depositing their salary, all that sort of stuff, it's really critical, not for now, it's critical for the future. As we bring, mortgages, insurance, wealth management, superannuation, all those sort of different product sets over time, it's no good launching those products and having no uptake. What's important is that we bring those products like the Chinese model, with some of the huge fintechs over there, is that you might start with a particular niche. And for us, that was spending and saving. And then over time, as you add additional products into that, whether it be crypto, whether it be wealth management, investment, mortgages, whatever it is, as you add in those different products, you need to have uptake. And 1%, 2%, 3%, not good enough. It's got to be 20%, 30%, 50%. You know what I mean? Like you've got to have that really strong engagement to be able to compete and scale.
No, you've used the word engagement, but I think, my experience of being an up customer, also seeing the business closely and seeing how you've actually grown the customer base is it's far closer, to a community than I would say just engaging customers. Yeah. I mean, just some phenomenal stories of, I remember going back to your launch and instead of being at Cybos, the world's biggest banking and financial services event on the planet that was in Sydney, you were in Melbourne playing Mario Kart with potential customers.
That's right.
What is it that kind of you would say is the kind of essence of the kind of the up community and the approach to customers?
Yeah, this is a very insightful question, observation. Like for us, it's not about being at the biggest thing, or it's not about launching the best product or whatever. Those things are kind of outcomes. For us, it's about having a relationship, helping people with anxiety, helping people understand their money, doing something good.
Yeah.
Like if we can make a material impact to people's lives, if we can, I'll give an example. A lot of people who join up, so more than 60% of our growth is through referral.
Right.
More than 60%. It's top of the pops. It's extraordinary.
It's cheaper than Google AdWords as well, right?
That's right. But people don't recommend up because they hate it. They recommend it because they love it. We did some, sort of a bit of fun analysis of looking at social media and looking at app stores and everything, and looking at the reviews and whatever. And we searched for the love heart emoji and the word love. And we found that on average across all the Australian banks, twice as many people say they love up than all the others combined. Yeah. Now that's not a fluke. It's not a coincidence. It's a deliberate strategy. Like we are building something, first and foremost, that we love. And then secondly, that makes a material impact to the world, to people's lives. And so a lot of people will say to us, this is what gets us out of bed in the morning, right? Is that people will say to us, I couldn't understand my money. I don't know where my money goes. And now with Up, I do. Or I've never been able to save in my life. And with Up, I've been able to turn that around. Yeah. Or people say to us, like I saw a really good one come in overnight with the new multiplayer banking, the new joint accounts, where somebody said, this is not a feature. This is financial literacy. This is a material impact on making a difference to the way we live. Like to hear other people saying that stuff about what we're doing, it's not only what gets us up in the morning, it like brings a tear to your eye.
Yeah, and look, this great example is the new product launch, right? You're not painting the Up logo rainbow colored, right, and saying, hey, we love everyone. You've actually created a product that people have never had before.
That's it.
Right. And makes a massive impact on people's lives. Yeah. To feel, hey, somebody actually cares enough to build a product, not paint the logo, right? But to build a product that is for me and my partner. It's awesome.
It's kind of hilarious too, because no matter what you do and no matter what you build, and there's always going to be people that want more. Yeah. And so our view is that we're, as a new market entrant, if you like, only just sort of at the beginning of our growth. We try to cater for a broader target audience than the product might originally seem like it's useful for. Mm. So, for example, 50% of our customers are aged between 16 and 25. And so they're very low value customers to a traditional bank. Yeah. To us, they're our heart and soul. Yeah. These young kids that love Up are what's helping us grow. They're passionate. They're the ones that are helping us innovate. Their feedback. Like we have, every day, thousands of messages coming from our customers telling us what we're doing good, telling us what we're not doing good. That sort of younger customer base is literally the core of our innovation. And so by servicing that customer, just because you can't make money from them and just because they don't have any deposits, most banks will just ignore them. But for us, it's like, no, don't ignore them. Engage with them, build stuff for them, make their lives easier. Yeah. So that's really important. And then the other thing is, like, we launched the 2Up and we said, it's part of our multiplayer banking strategy, right? Now, multiplayer banking is a strategy. It's a long-term play. We're going to release an extension to our roadmap soon to articulate this, publicly. But, to give a bit of an insight is that, for us, it's about how anyone in any circumstance can use Up, jointly. So it's a shared account, it's a joint account. You can have 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, whatever. And so that is a journey. Now, what we've launched in the last couple of days is the first step of that, which is the 2-player banking. And the 2-player banking, yes, it's exciting and it's gamified and that sort of stuff. But one of the first messages we got was from someone who's in a polyamorous relationship saying, yeah, but there's 3 of us. Why can't we, like you said, why can't we? And we're like, hold your horses. Like, absolutely. For us, it was like same-sex couples, a mother and a daughter, 2 business partners, 2 people who have, are just going out, they're not even married, those sort of relationships are really strong. What about 2, uni students living in a shared house? Or, like, a lot of people want to be able to set up something it's ephemeral, like set up an account. Is that account something we use for 5 days or for 5 years or for 50 years? Is it something we can set up and then close down? Is it something that's easy to set up, just the click of a button? We made it so that, for example, you have to be an upsider before you can get a 2Up account. And so both parties are upsiders, and then they literally just nominate their Up handle. So just say, okay, well, I just want, dollar Dexter, and then suddenly you and I can have a joint account together. Now, there's no other bank in the world that you can do that with. So for that sort of innovation, I think you can't look at what exists now. You have to say, what is it that people want? And what is it that we think people might want? And then what's the intersection of those 2 things? And then that's it. That's Anson's job. And I love it, and I'm very passionate about it. I try to work with Anson as much as I can. In fact, we're meant to be having our weekly product chat right now, but I said I've got to talk to Dex.
Right. Well, what can I say? I've made it, right? I've made it now. Well, we're coming to a close, Dom, but this is the People's Choice Award, where the public gets to vote. So if they're listening to this podcast, why do you think they should give up their vote?
I think they should vote for whoever they think should win, to be honest. And if that's us, I'll be honoured. But, we are trying to make a difference. We're trying to help people with their money. We're trying to help people with financial literacy. We're trying to help people have fun. One of our guys at the office, our branding guy, Pete, he said to me one time, and he's crazy. You look at the 2Up stuff; it's all amazing, like arcade games and all this crazy stuff. And
takes me back to my childhood, right?
Oh, mate, it's extraordinary. Yeah, it's extraordinary. But he said to me one time that this is not like a bank; it's like a party. And so I think that if in terms of the People's Choice Award, we are making a material impact to the industry. We're making a material impact to people's lives. During COVID, our business grew significantly. While a lot of people were remote, we were helping them, not only to get set up on banking, but also to just run their daily lives. Everything changed. You had to go to the local shops. You had to buy things online. You had to get home delivery, all that sort of stuff. And Up enabled all of that. We were the first bank in Australia to have instant digital wallet. Now, it doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But it's critical. Not only is it critical during a pandemic, but it's also critical to do a 2Up account, to have a joint account. So for us, those sort of little things hopefully say a bit about who we are. And the fact that we've partnered with, a company like Bendigo, who have a massive community impact, hopefully a little bit of that rubs off and people realise that we are trying to make a difference and help people improve their lives, reduce that anxiety, help people understand money better and build a better future together.
Brilliant. Well, Dom, congrats to everybody at Up for making it to the finals. You've been around, for a few years now. I'm sure you'd agree the competition is just getting tougher and tougher, and it's fantastic to see everybody kind of rising with the tide that we're seeing right now.
Australian fintech is, if not the best, amongst the best in the world, and it's extraordinary to see the talent, the companies, and the success that we've seen in Australia in the last few years. It's unbelievable, and I'm very proud and privileged to be part of it.
Me too. Dom, good luck.
Thanks, mate.
Fintech Organisation of the Year Award is sponsored by Vocus. Thank you, Vocus, for your support in making the Finnies a reality. We look forward to seeing everyone on the 9th of June in Melbourne, and don't forget to make your vote in the People's Choice Awards.